let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, camera number 2. Welcome back to another weekend bullshit trading brought to you by Krown Crypto Cave. Wish you a happy and healthy start to this disastrous weekend of probably very little going on in this market. But you know what? Most people actually celebrate the weekend. Us here in cryptocurrency land, just another day, just another bullshit essentially. But we got a lot to talk about in the broader market, I do believe, as well as Forex as well. And of course, we'll talk about Bitcoin at the beginning here. On top of that, I do want to, as always, wish you the best and the happiest. Why not? And with that said, let's actually get into the content of this video, starting off with the good old Krown trading app, which we can port into right now. Krown trading app is 100% free, by the way, and available at app.krowntrading.net. Enjoy. Anyways, as you can see right here, we actually have seen the open interest come down quite a bit. We were well above 1.5 billion just a few days ago, now coming down below 1.3 billion. Which did correlate with that nice move that we saw to the downside, and that nice $1,000 dump dildo straight in the face, happening absolutely perfectly with that. But we still got some juice left in the tank, and I do believe that's lining up for a move coming this week. I would say before the end of this next coming week, very, very likely Bitcoin going to break the current range. So keep this one in the back of your mind's eye, because it will correlate very well with what we're going to look at with regards to volatility metrics, and align with also pattern trading as well, implying that the big move is very likely staring us right in the face. Again, actually the end of the month as well. On top of that, we see Bitcoin dominance more or less steady, more or less the same. So we are finding a little bit of support in this region, which tells me that we are likely going to see an inflection point put into the market, as that's typically when you start to see switch ups within that metric. And that would be a great time to go head on over here to our lovely trading view price action charts. And hey, where's my moving averages? My moving averages. Hold on, let me just go grab them right here. I fear that there's like someone who's watching this channel for the first time. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? A lot is wrong with this guy, but mostly just because it's the weekend, really. I very much dislike trading on the weekend. So I've closed out all positions. I did close out my long yesterday above 97.50 during the Twitch stream. I want to say massive thank you for everyone who joined on the Twitch stream. I might do one later today. I haven't decided just yet. Need to go eat a shit ton of steak beforehand, but after that, perhaps yes, if time does allow. Anyways, as it stands right now, looking at the daily close from yesterday, Friday, more or less inconclusive. I would say that as long as Bitcoin again does not break that critical $9,600 level on a higher time frame, or 95, or let's actually go to BitMEX right on over here, or 95.50 on a lower term time frame, I am more or less looking for this to just slowly but surely kind of reaccumulate in this region and float back upwards and onwards. Now, here's the thing. The good thing about yesterday's price action, it actually does give us yet again another thing to kind of be marking things off of. And if Bitcoin can close at the very least a 4-hour dildo back above this pivot at about 97.50-ish region, yes, I would look for a move back to the top side of the median of this range, which would aptly be right around about $10,000. So another test towards a 5-digit region. But again, that doesn't really do anything for the macro here. Unfortunately, the macro is still steady, and it's been the same thing that we've been looking at for the past 3 weeks. Anywhere below 95.50, maybe even 9,500 on a 12-hour daily dildo close, that's where I get bearish for moves down to not just 9,200 right around here, but likely continuation after a bounce in that region into the mid 8,000s. I'd say about 8,500 to 8,600 would be kind of on my mind if that were to happen. And then of course to the upside, difficult as well, but the same blue box to the upside actually has been a little bit adjusted here, just because I could very much get bullish for move to about $11,000 if and only if Bitcoin gets a daily dildo or even a 12-hour dildo closing above 10,200 right around here, this last little spike high that we saw before that wash out. Now, what I will say about this price action here is that when Bitcoin got this massive $1,000 dump dildo, it was printed as a bearish engulfing dildo. However, Bitcoin's lack of continuation on top of that is indicative to me that I probably would be looking for the upside to at least get tested again, and basically saying that I'm not necessarily bearish here. I want to be very much clear in stating that while Bitcoin does not necessarily look like the picture of health and fitness right now, I would still be using that 95.50-ish region. We'll refer to it as the pivot for downside. And I need to see really a higher time frame close below there, or maybe a 4-hour below 9,500 would probably do it as well. But I do think that, especially during the weekend price action, I'd rather err on the side of caution. And for me, that means making no trades. So again, I want to be very direct in saying this because I always get questions about this. The position that I was in yesterday, I did close right around here, right a little bit above 9,700, and now I'm completely positionless. I have no intent to trade over the weekends. Again, doesn't mean that you can't make money over the weekends. You certainly can. Shout out to all the people out there making buttloads of fucking money on the weekends. I'm very, very happy for you. Just for myself, I feel like as a technical analyst, my edge in this market gets diminished during weekend price action trading. And rarely do we see like major breaks over the weekend, and usually just factory, and I'd rather just be well positioned for the regular trading week coming up. Anyways, while we're here on the lower term time frames, let's go check out what our momentum oscillators are looking like. It's really not all that it looks to me like we're probably going to come back down and swipe around like 9,500-ish region right here, but I don't really stand all that by that. 4-hour Stochs are technically up right now, but more or less flaccid as the way that I look at it. They're not really threatening too much going on. We do see that 4-hour Stochastic volatility percentile, however, is very, 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 very low. So I do think that this implies that we are going to go through a period of a little bit of short-term consolidation, setting up for a move probably between Wednesday and Friday of this coming week, which should be revealed by our higher time frame historical volatility percentile, and also mediated by the fact that we still have a pretty large amount of open interest on the board, which can certainly drive a break of the greater range, the macro range that we spoke about earlier, driving price action essentially down to about 8,500 or up to 11,000-ish region. Anyways, moving through the lower term time frame so we can get these ones out of the way really, really quick. We do see that 3-hour Stochs getting a little bit more up there, but not really, again, price action more or less flat, so just going sideways. I say this is actually a little bit more of a bearish look, to be fair, on the lower term time frames. Same thing on historical volatility percentile right here, winding up quite a bit, contracting still, and setting up for a move, I do believe, probably coming into a little bit later in this coming week. Looking at the 2-hour right here, we see 2-hour Stochs kind of floating around, coming down. So we see bifurcation between the lower time frames, which tells me that we're very, very likely to range here, and that is essentially what a consolidation is. So lower term time frame range is going to be very, very easily spoken to in this region right here. I do believe that we've already kind of had this marked off correctly, anywhere between about 95, 95.50 if you want to get super exact, and topside more preliminary resistance at 97.30, 97.40. If the topside resistance does get taken out, I would look for a move all the way up to about $10,000. Hit the 5 digits, maybe even just have another test towards this topside blue box once again, just $100 higher than that. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. I'd want to see it as it kind of happens. Generally, though, I do think that we'd probably test that region if and only if Bitcoin does clear 4-hour dilts back above this region right here. And on top of that, we are going to see the 4-hour 200 simple and 200 next benchmark average start to align with this blue box. You can imagine that, by again by tomorrow, late tomorrow probably actually does. And on top of that, I want to take this one step further. So We've spoken about all of this in the lower term time frames, and sorry, I did skip over the hourly, but we see again we mainly just see bifurcation here. Not really seeing anything of interest, and hourly historical volatility percentile is contracting as well. So all of that's aligning with what we just with the same stuff that we just spoke about. But let's take this one step further. So if I do want to be bullish, how am I looking at this? Well, essentially I'm looking at this as long as I am more or less bullish as long as we're above 96, 95, 50-ish region on a higher term time frame. Doesn't mean that I can't change there. It's just I need to see a change behavior before that happens. So if I am bullish, what I'm looking at this is, or how I'm looking at what I'm looking at this is, or how do you speak English? What the sometimes I just get so confused, man. I'm curious if anyone else ever has it. It's like, wait, does that even sound right? Maybe not. Anyways, if I want to be bullish, or what bulls are likely looking at is this right here. They're likely looking at this as some sort of a falling channel, which typically does get resolved to the upside, and so far it's pretty much gotten all of our lows pretty accurately, and seems to be holding up relatively well. Of course, above a critical support level that was cleared above weeks ago, that has essentially incited my bullish bias for the longer term direction. Anyways, this following channel, we can certainly make a measure move upon it. And let's see what it would kind of print out right now. It's going to be a very crude measurement of it. You could also call it a bull flag perhaps, which would imply actually a much different move. But this measure move over here would be pointed towards that $10,900 to $11,000 region, which is certainly very much relevant on our higher time frames, because that would be exactly in our next kind of macro liquid zone, coming in right around this region right here, almost perfectly lining up with it. In fact, in this zone. Oh my God, actually it is perfect. There you go. So that's what the bulls will be looking at right there. And of course, that will be initiated if and only if we do close at the very least a 12-hour dildo above this 10,200 hump right here. If that happens, yes, I am bullish for move to 10.9 and 11,000. And my general disposition is that as long as Bitcoin doesn't break this horizontal down here at about 95, 95.50, especially on a higher term time frame, I'm more or less looking for that to just slowly but surely kind of float its way back upwards and onwards. Now, what the bears are looking at this is, like, if you're bearish, you're probably looking at this as a downtrend on a daily, which it is. And to be fair, the daily trends have accurately gotten price action for have accurately gotten price action for quite some time. To give an example of this, we got a daily switch around from a downtrend to from a downtrend to an uptrend right around here in early January, right when Bitcoin essentially broke back above 7,800, breaking the prior high. We actually got into an uptrend on the daily, and it stayed in an uptrend the whole way through from essentially 7,800 all the way to 10.5, we could call it. So, you know, a $3,000, $4,000 move, pretty damn nice. Anyways, we got our first confirmation of a daily downtrend as of recent times, confirming a lower high right here and lower lows right on over here. So technically speaking, we do have potentially an inflection point on this market, which does line up essentially with the open interest, which lines up with the, well, we haven't shown the historical volatility reads on the higher time frames just yet, but it very likely will. I can spoil the fucking punchline already. It will, and that's going to align with this greater range, very very likely being broken before, you know, around the end of February, which is coming this coming week, as we're already on the 22nd day of February. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. I am recording. Microphone's working as well. Oh man, very happy to see that. Anyways, my point is, as we put back on all these major moving averages, is that we very likely see resolution on that. And I would imagine that these next few days are going to be more of just filling out the range, more factory. I wouldn't really expect the downside to be broken. Wouldn't really expect the upside to be broken. Would mostly be expecting a range between about 96, we'll call it, and 90 or 96 and about 10,000-ish region, which we'll look at the expected moves in a bit as well. Anyways, while we are here on the daily, let's go check out historical volatility percentile on the daily. And what do you see? We are going through a little bit of a phase of expansion here, as the moving average is actually showing a positive slope. Let me just make sure that I'm actually running a 20 simple on this. Yes, I am. Okay, great. Yeah, but I do want to go down here to the 12-hour, which is what we've been following to kind of get this next move. And you will see that it's probably going to go through a little bit of contraction here as well, which is going to set it up sometime around that next week of price action, I'd imagine. So all of this is relevant, but needs to be considered within the context of that critical 2-day read. So I'll bring it over here as well. In the 2-day, I think is very, very useful, not just for overall trend, but especially if a market has spot trading over the weekend, but the other derivatives are not trading over the weekend. I think the 2-day chart really gets rid of a lot of the floaty, flighty price action, and the 2-day chart's just generally easier to read. Now, to be fair, the 2-day chart is still in an uptrend, and the 2-day chart does have potential hidden bullish divergence in play. Now, it will not be confirmed as hidden bullish divergence until I'd want to see a close above yesterday's high, which is 97.50-ish region, depending upon which exchange that you use. But if we could get a close above 97.50-ish region, or even just get a higher time, even like a medium time frame closing above that short-term preliminary resistance that we saw at about 97.50, I think it was, a little bit below there, then yes, very, very likely we will confirm this as a local low. If this gets confirmed as a local low, this will be confirmed as hidden bullish divergence between this point and this point, still in the context of an uptrend, while RSI is making lower lows, showing that the bears are using more power to get less of a way, and we will very likely see another test back up to about 10,200-ish region. If 10,200 does get tested, that once again puts us in a posture to actually have a full informal breakout to the upside. And the cool thing about this is that we can now move that point of breakout confirmation down quite a bit from as before. It was around 10,000. It was above 10,500, like 10,550. We could now move that down in two ways: either a 12-hour or higher time frame close above about 10,200. That would make me bullish for the next major leg up, or even just taking out the top side of this dildo that we saw in February 18th at 10,300-ish region. Again, check your exchange. It will differ. Whichever one of those things happens, well, obviously taking out, well, actually, no. Whichever one of those things happens first is going to be good enough for me, and I will be targeting moves essentially towards like 10,900 or 11,000-ish region. And that is all hinging upon the fact that we actually do confirm this as hidden bullish evidence. So we actually just closed a 2-day dildo last night, so we won't be closing this one until tomorrow night. So fucking convenient. It's happening on a goddamn weekend. But tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, if we do close essentially above yesterday's high, I would very, 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 very likely and comfortably call this a local low, which is going to initiate all those other things. Now, let's take this one step further. Now bringing historical volatility percentile into the works. Keep this one in mind. Or let me get this. Actually, do want that alert there, but we need to get out of we need to get out of the way for right now. Okay, so much things going on here. All right, first and foremost, historical volatility percentile is unbelievably low right now. We are quite literally not just in single digits. We're actually hitting like a 1 read, like literally a fucking 1. That means that this is pretty historically unlikely we're going to stay at this low volatility for much longer. In fact, to put this in perspective, the only times that we were this low were back in November of 2018, before this 50% move from 6,000 to 3,000. The time before that we were this low was on this move from 75 down to 6,000, like literally in a few days. The time before that we were this low was back on over here on this catastrophic event. This one was actually a more bullish one. Sorry, let me zoom in, because this one was quite nice. On a move from all the way from 6,000 to 8,500. Very, very nice. And then the time before that was this whole move down here during consensus, which was great. Anyways, so it does not imply direction. It does imply volatility. It does imply that we're going to see big, massive moves. Again, to put this in perspective, even on the least impressive drop, we're still doing massive percentages. So on the most impressive one that we'd had on all those looks, that's about a 50% move. Of course, it can be more than that as well. On the next one that we saw right around here, that's a 20% move. That's probably like the least impressive one. This one over here to the upside was a 37% move. And then this one over here to the downside was about a 37% move. So even on the low end, we're talking about a 20% move. Very, 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 very likely come in. And we do not, direction is not implied by this. But if hidden bullish divergence does get confirmed, I do believe we would see that come to the upside. And if we were to just kind of measure this one out from our current kind of lows and add 20% on top of that, where does that put us in around? Oh, what do you fucking know? 11,500. And, that could be more of a range between about 11,000 and 11,500, of which 11,000 in line with that measure move that we saw from the following channel. But remember, on CMEs right over here, we do still have, technically speaking, especially with yesterday's Friday closure, we do still have this marked off as an inverted head and shoulders, and this is available. This is valid as long as we're remaining above this trend line right here. As long as we're remaining above this trend line right here, this measure move is valid. And where is it pointed towards? $12,000 fucking dollars, especially when you consider that there's a premium on CME price action. And what do you know, in this region as well, that's going to be right around the $11,500 mark. And holy shit, what, another gap? The only gap that's available on the fucking board? But Krown, did you see the gap at 7,500? But Krown, have you tried masturbating with sandpaper lately? Because that's what it fucking feels like. I swear, even after I see these things, there's like there's still like just 50 fucking messages in my Discord inbox. But Krown, have you considered there's certainly times when I haven't considered things and like people will hit me up with it, and it's like greatly appreciated. But on this example right here, no, these are not gaps down here, because I'm very certain that someone will make that claim. Anyways, so all those things lining up with each other, and that's what I would be looking at, and what things are kind of lining up with on the higher timeframes. By the same token, though, it is not a done deal that we're going to go up to the upside. If we do even just take out this dildo's low at about 9,300, or essentially just initiate the downside by taking out the critical level that we spoke about at the beginning of this video, right around 95.50, then I would be looking for that to come down all the way to somewhere in like the mid 8,000s. And if we were to just, again, take a more modest shaving of price action, where would 20% off the top of of that last high take us? Well, it take us right down around to 8,500 even. Why is 8,500 significant? Well, not only do we have not only do we have kind of like historical volatility percentiles suggesting that would be the result of that move essentially, but we also do see that the 200 simple on Bitcoin daily coming in right around, well, a little bit above about 8,800. More importantly, the 200 exponential moving average, this purple moving average, coming in right around 8,550. If you take this one step further, and I think a little bit more relevant is looking at the weekly right here and taking everything off except for the most relevant moving averages to this time frame is going to be the yellow 21 exponential moving average and the red 10 simple are coming in right around where? Right around that 8,500-ish level as well. And if we put on the 20 simple moving averages, which is essentially denoted by the median of the 200 bands, that kind of creates a range between 87 and 84, 85. So right in that region is where I'd be looking for if we do initiate the downside. So we're looking at this move very, very likely probably around the end of this next coming week. And personally speaking, I do think that it comes to the upside, but whichever way that we break here, I'm going to jump on. I have no position right now, and I'm happy to have no position. More importantly, to the downside, I do think that it is relevant just because we do see that longer term. Bitcoin loves to play off that yellow 20 exponential moving average on a weekly time frame schedule during its like bullish dumps, if you want to call it that. Like during its bull markets, it loves to kind of bounce off that region and continue upwards and onwards, and vice versa for the downside. And what do you know? It's coming in right at this region, right in over here. So if we did break to the downside, I wouldn't even necessarily call that like macro bearish. I mean, it would certainly be bearish. Don't get me wrong. $1,000 move plus to the downside is not fucking bullish, but I do believe that Bitcoin would bounce pretty damn strongly there. And then we come back and reassess and then come up with something new. So yeah, keeping in mind that and by the way, also we are going to see the red 10 symbol cross the upside of the yellow 21. And usually when we get that cross in the past, Bitcoin price action is in a consolidation phase, and it doesn't have to test. It doesn't have to exactly test it, but it typically tests around it. For example, right here, you see a little bit of pulling in as a cross. For example, right in over here, you see a little bit of pulling in as a cross. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. And well, pretty much all the examples, but again, this is more ephemeral. It's more out there. Let's go talk about the monthly, as the monthly is going to be coming to a close relatively soon. Like I said, less than a week now, or actually maybe, hold on, let me look at my calendar. Actually exactly a week from today. Okay, cool. So with the way that the monthly is looking right now, I don't really have any major issues with it. Essentially, as long as the monthly closes above the 10 simple, which is 9,200, it looks more or less healthy to me. If it closes above, let's call it five digits above 10,000, that would look really, 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 really good at the very least for a test to the $11,000 mark. But right now, we're not really getting too much off it. Other than that, what I can say a little bit more concretely though is that if we do close this monthly below the 10 simple, which is currently coming in right above 9,000, which certainly will happen if we take that path southward to the 8,500-ish level, then I would be looking for probably a more long-term down move into like the upper 7,000s over time. And then again, this is getting way ahead of ourselves here, but for right now, like I said, I'm not really leaning towards that happening. If Bitcoin even just catches a bid and closes this monthly, I mean, really anywhere above where we are right now, 97, 9,800, especially above 5 digits, we will see monthly Stokes cross back up to the upside, and this would essentially be that nice little snake that typically does lead us back into glory land. Well, we don't really have too much price action history here, unfortunately, but typically when you see a rejection like this alongside the bullish control zone and then it quickly reverts back up, that's a strong move. And monthly RSI is more or less healthy as well. I would say back above the exponential. Yes, it is in a neutral zone, but I would put the odds on the sides of the bull here, just because we are above the exponential in that relationship. Anyways, so let's go down now and look at some probabilities. We can even look at the end of the month probabilities, although that's going to drastically switch around. For today, I actually do think that Bitcoin's going to come back down and maybe tag around the 200 simple on the 4 hour, maybe like 94.50ish region, but I don't think that it's going to break. I think that it probably gets tested, but probably does not break. And then maybe like early next week, we set up for perhaps a move back above 97.50ish region and initiate that move towards 10,000. That's essentially my disposition. So I'm going to go back on over here and let's just kind of mark off the critical areas. And also, I do want to say that the potential falling channel that we've been looking at has been getting a lot of these wicks to the downside and is going to be aligning with the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average actually probably by the next two closures here. So let's keep that in mind and see what the likelihoods are. This is using a 12-hour, so it's going to get around the daily digital close. And we do see that the bottom side of the first day aviation is coming in where? Coming in right around 94.50, which is exactly where the 200 simple is on the 4-hour right here. And I actually do think that we're probably going to test this again. Probably over the weekend and probably not break it over the weekend though. So it's probably going to bounce there. But I could very easily be wrong on that. Of course, this is not finished advice. I'm not a finished advisor, and I will not be trading that one. I want to be very direct in saying this. I will not be trading that one. For all the other moves into this region, I've been trading. Because it's the weekend, I will not. And to the upside, we see the top side of the first day aviation coming in right around 98.50, so less than a 16% chance that we do break outside of that range today. And to the downside, less than a 16% chance below 94.50ish region. And realistically, I think that we're probably just going to be operating between these guys. Now, this is only on a 12-hour. Let's go look at a daily. A daily showing a much greater range actually. Top side 9,900, bottom side 9,400. Of course, 9,400 bottom side would still be above that prior wick to the downside. So keep in mind that that February 18th dump dildo down to like 9,300 is still got about $100 buffer there. So it would say that we have a less than 16% chance to break below that area within this next 24 hours worth period, which would imply that we're not going to get continuation of the downside here, at least in this next day, or a very, very low chance, a 16% chance. By the same token, not very likely that we do break out to the upside either. We're most likely to range here. I'd say, colloquially speaking, between about 94.50 and 97.50ish region in this next day before we speak next. But I do want to check out what the end of month probabilities are going to look like. So where's my expected moves? There we go. We have 7 days until the end, and I'm not sure how accurate this is going to be, especially when doing this on a weekend, but we can come up with it right now. So, okay, so this is going to be looking at the monthly close, right? Remember, the monthly close anywhere above like 9,800 is going to be more or less bullish, and you do see that we have a pretty damn good chance to close above that level. It's going to be within, let's say, it would be like, I suppose it'd be 70% to close above there right here. No. That would be wrong. It'd be about 40% to close above there. By the same token, to the downside, it certainly is within the bounds. It certainly is within the first day aviation, of course, to close to the downside. But, well, no, it's actually quite likely. Fair enough. It's actually a little bit more likely that we break to the downside if we are taking these probabilities for today. So fair enough. I do think that that's worthwhile to talk about. Okay, the probabilities are actually on the downside. Fair enough. Can't argue with that. Can't argue with the math here. Anyways, I do want to check out just what the very low time frames look like, just for shits and giggles here. It doesn't work all that well in the lower term timeframes. And what do you know? We do see the bottom side of the first day aviation coming in right around 9,500. Very, 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 very unlikely we do break to new lows today. That would be less than a 2.5% chance, as our second stand aviation is even above above our prior wick to the downside, that 9,300ish level. So I do think that today is kind of a ranging day between about 95 and 97ish region. I don't think that we're going to see a big breakdown today. Could happen, but I wouldn't put my money on it. Anyways, okay, we've already been speaking. How this fucking happens every goddamn time. I feel like I've barely said anything, and we're already 30 minutes in. All right, so I guess it's time to get on over to the other markets, I suppose. Let's go check out gold. Gold actually shattered our upwards target. So we had a target of 1630ish region in gold. That one got absolutely fucking destroyed, and now we move on to the next one. So where's the next area of interest here? We actually got some airtime here. I don't really see too much stopping it from about 1669, which is a great number. And even then, realistically, it's starting to get into like the upper echelons of this prior consolidation. So there's not all that much to go off of. I do think that is going to reach towards this area right here and probably have a pullback between about somewhere around like 1690-ish region, maybe a little bit lower than that. Overall, though, longer term, very, very healthy, very, 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 very good. And more importantly, the monthly, which is going to be closing in about a week, is is incredible, and we've been bullish on this one for a long time. I'm not a fan of gold or anything like that, but I am a fan of this chart, absolutely. And I do think that it will continue the uptrend coming in the next few months, actually. And I do think that from a monthly perspective, really not much stopping it from like 1750-ish region, give or take about $10. And then I expect like a more medium long-term consolidation, and then perhaps we get continuation of new highs after that. But that's well and far away. I'll leave you off with that one right now. Let's go check out traditional market SPY. SPY actually closing the day down. I'm gonna look like a complete fucking moron for saying that yesterday I was looking for continuation, but oh well, I'm just straight up wrong on this one. Embarrassing for myself, because I feel like we were having a pretty damn good run here, even though I don't even fucking trade this one myself anymore. At least this was actually one of my more favorite things to trade as a market maker, but no longer. I would not trade this as a retailer, just to be on the record for that. But this price action happening right here is going to confirm some pretty significant bearish divergences. So perhaps we come into next week, we bounce up a little bit, but overall I'd likely look for continuation coming into next week down here, down towards 328.5. Get rid of this one right here. And yeah, okay, those are the areas of interest. Now we did essentially break a rising channel to the downside. I do want to see what the measure move is on this, just in case we already hit it. No, we haven't really hit it yet, actually. So yeah, I think that coming into next week, very, very likely it comes down to like 328.5, 329, and probably another bounce there, and then game on once again. Let's see, how did the weekly close? Not terrible, not great, but potential bearish divergence in the making. Potential like actual bearish divergence on the weekly in the making, which would make that 328 call extremely likely. Or 328.5, whatever it ends up being. Okay, cool. Let's go check out some of the other top shitcoins and wrap this bitch up. We got Mr. Beaterall over here. Mr. Beaterall kind of looks to me as well like it might pop back down here and test around 250-ish region. I don't have any major problems with that. In fact, the 4-hour very much looks like it wants to do that. Very much looks like it wants to come back down to 253, 250-ish region. But I don't think that it has momentum to break right now. I do think that is the momentum to test, however. But keep in mind the greater picture here on the 12-hour. 12-hour is still constructing higher lows. So as long as 12 hours are closing above about 253, it can test down around that. That's fine. But as long as it closes above 253, I'm more or less looking at this as a potential ascending triangle in the making, with a target of 310 to about 310 longer term, and again implying a breakout point somewhere around here. Let me get rid of this blue box. It's not really relevant. These trend lines are relevant, but we don't need as many. I would be looking for a breakout coming in here. This would imply a breakout somewhere around 25th or 26th of February. Again, coming into late next week. I do think that we get this break. Now, if it breaks out to the upside, 310 would be the target. If it breaks out to the downside, 330 would be the target. Breaking out to the downside would be had if we close any sort of a 12-hour dildo below about 252, 253. Breakout to the upside would be confirmed above 284. Correlating with those targets. Looking at Mrs. Litecoin, how's she doing? Actually, Mrs. Litecoin acting a little bit better here than the rest of the market. Bullish divergence was confirmed yesterday. We already spoke about that, and now we're just seeing it kind of play out. We did hit our target towards 75.25. I don't really have an opinion on it other than that. With the rest of the market kind of coming down right now, actually, or looking like it wants to test a little bit of downside, I'd imagine that Mrs. Litecoin going to do the same. Probably pop back down to like $71.5. I don't think it breaks either the downside. I just think it tests some downside. And again, going to fall with what the majority of the market does. I do want to take a look at Link really quick. Link's been doing some interesting, overall one of the better actors in this market, but losing its ascending triangle. Now, I do think that it's probably going to bounce off the 21 again on the 12-hour, but this, to me, getting broken to the downside is going to imply probably a target towards the blue box territory, probably towards 40,000 Satoshis. Now, I do think that it's going to bounce again off at the 40,000 Satoshis, but I think that 50,000 Satoshi read is going to be postponed for a bit. I do think it's more likely to test a downside here, at least for a few days. Daily's kind of under pressure as well. Bearish divergence initiated. I do think that 40,000 is quite likely to get tagged. It probably reaccumulates and gives a try towards 50,000 longer term, but for right now, direction I believe is down. Cardano, what can we say about Cardano? Same thing. Looks to me like it wants to test some downside, probably back down at 580. 580 must hold, though. If 580 does not hold, this is technically a head and shoulders in place. Volume signature is right. Shape is right. Taste, smell, size also right. And if this area does break, if it does close below 590-ish Satoshis, I'd be looking for a retracement all the way back down to like 540, 550-ish region down here. So the majority of alts let's go look at a couple more alts just to see if like we see what a majority look is like. Mr. Beaterall versus Bitcoin actually fine. Kind of constructing an ascending triangle at a high level. So I think that's actually a little more on the bullish side. Litecoin versus Bitcoin also more on the bullish side. Looks to me like it wants to retest the 800,000 Satoshi high. So maybe alt are more bullish than I thought, and Cardano is just the laggard, the weak one right now. Okay, what else do we want to look at? Maybe a Ripple look. Ripple my look. Oh, it's fucking dumb. Sorry. Fucking stupid. Same thing here. 200 exponential moving average kind of governing lows. As long as it doesn't break, I wouldn't look at this as a head and shoulders, but if it does break, big bad move, probably back down to like 24 cents. As long as it doesn't break though, I do think that it's going to follow the rest of the market, probably test some downside here, maybe back down to 26 and a half. That's fine as long as it just doesn't close below there, and I look for it to probably float back up to 30 cents. However, the only thing that really speaks to me on a weekly, it's like the fucking chart whisper, some bullshit like that. Sorry, apologies. The weekly doesn't look all that hot here. Now, the weekly has some pretty big, massive pivot points on it. Any sort of a weekly close above 30 cents. And yes, I would get bullish for probably move towards 40 to 50 cents, more medium to long term. By the same token, any sort of a weekly deal to close below 26 cent, or sorry, not below 26, but 25 and a half cent, and look for a full retrace all the way back down to low 20s, like 20, basically a quarter, or sorry, not a quarter, 22 and a half is what I'd be looking for, and perhaps lower than that over time, because this one's still following the long-term downtrend. This one failed to revert the trend here. Still weekly lower highs, unfortunately. So yeah. Anyways, I think that's a good place to leave it off. Let's go back onto Bitcoin and start to wrap this bitch up. At the end of the day, really just watching the lower timeframes on a weekend, as don't really think too much is going to be going on with the higher term timeframes. It looks to me like we're setting up for a test of around 9450-ish region, maybe 9500, somewhere along the 200 simple for the 4 hour. I do think that Bitcoin's going to bounce there, probably not going to break. If it does break, then yeah, we got some problems most likely. Down to 9200 would be the next level that I'm looking towards. Probably bounce there, and then continuation down to our mid $8,000 target. But as long as Bitcoin kind of crawls sideways here and fills out that falling channel, I would more or less be looking for it to kind of flip around, test the downside a few more times, flip around sometime next week, and then pop back up towards the 5 digits. So that's what I'll be leaving off with right now. Of course, if Bitcoin did close a 4-hour dodo back above 9740-ish region, I would look for that move to happen, I guess, sooner rather than later, back up to 9950, $10,000. But for right now, it looks to me like the downside wants to get tested first and foremost. So I'll leave you off there. Perhaps I'll be on Twitch later, perhaps not. I haven't really decided just yet. If I'm not on today, I'll probably be on tomorrow, and vice versa. But with that said, want to be wishing you well again on this nice little start to your Saturday morning, a nice little weekend, perhaps of thackeray or nothing, or just relaxation. Take care, and until next time.